Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I'm your host, Stephen Stark. With me, as always, is my number one co-host, John. Don't tell Nessie I said that. She's at work, but
I
that's
got
why she's not here this week. She's finally tested negative. She had. Oh crap! I did not mute my phone. I'm a
Wow, that's
professional.
been a spell.
I'm a professional. I promise. But anyway, I yeah, Nessie had COVID, but she's testing negative now and she's back to work, so that's why she's not here this weekend. And then we have a very special guest with us, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Tony Teflon. Tony, say hi to the folks and tell them a little bit about yourself.
What's the deal, my people? You know what it is, the Don Tony Teflon. If you don't, now you do. I'm, man, the myth, the legend. I appreciate those words, Stephen Stark. I don't know if they're all entirely true, but I'll accept them. I will definitely accept them. I would say that I am on Teflon TV. That's my channel on YouTube. I talk Game of Thrones and some other things here and there and stuff, and also trying to open it up. And I do a podcast with LMR called the Lady and the Don Podcast, and I would just like to thank you for having me on your channel to talk about this movie. I'm excited to talk about it, and I'm good on talking about it. So I'm ready to get into it. And thank you again for having me again. And what's up to my man John up on here too. So what up to everybody out there in the chat rocking with us that I see, Danny McKay, Bernie L, LMR, Marat, and all you people out there who came over here to rock with us. We really do. Lady Leaf, Unleaf, truly appreciate
it. Look at this goddamn professional just going off, man. So a little bit about me and Tony before we actually get started talking about Spaceballs. So like I met you at the very first ever Con of Thrones in Nashville, and then in Dallas when I did my first ever panel, and it was about who's going to live and who's going to die in season 8, I think. And it was you and me and Val from Because Geek, and that was my first ever panel. And most of the people who watch me regularly know that I started doing all this stuff because of my social anxiety disorder. So you were right there from the beginning, helping me like get out the shell. You know what I mean? And what is it? 2 years later, here I am, and you're a guest on my channel. So I can't thank you enough for that, man. You also came to that to the barbecue at the end of the weekend. That I felt like it was a big hit. We had a good time.
Definitely did. And you threw that. Your mom was there too, right?
Your mom was there. My brother was there.
It was for Smokescreen's boy's birthday. Everybody had on tie-dye shirts and stuff, and I thought it was very well pulled off. Especially, I had a great time there. The food was great. The people were great. He was really excited to be there. So I was just happy to be a part of it. I'm just happy to be a part of on the panel with you and Val. It was a very fun panel for me to do. I do remember it. It's a very fun panel. At that point, I've done a couple of panels, but right. It wasn't like I'm a panel,
right.
guy that knew what I was doing. So, I was just trying to figure everything out there myself. You know what I mean? So, you made it easy for me too. So, we all played off each other very well. I think the panel went off. It was a pretty good success.
Agreed. So.
Yeah, I do have to say that, I guess I owe you some thanks too, Tony, because if you helped Steven come out of his shell, he's then paid it forward and done that for me. So it's so it's great that continues on, because I would still be keeping to myself, barely posting on Twitter if it wasn't for that man sitting next to me. So
that is what it is. I appreciate that too. Appreciate Steven. That's what YouTube, I would think, especially people who would do like some more similar stuff in the same thing. It's really like an inspiration to everyone. Everyone should inspire other people to do better. And I think that sometimes in this community, we get caught up with a little bit of jealousy or a little bit of envy here and there, instead of just looking at someone else's success and being happy for them. I think some people don't like to do that. So I think that if we all focus more on that and say, hey, if this person could do that, and maybe I could do it too. If him, that's the way I looked at it when I came out. I was like, if it's happening to him, why not me? Right. If he can come out, and I'll tell you straight up, like when I first came out, I wasn't the person I am right now. It was truly for me watching Phil the Issues guy, and I seen him just be as free as he was, that inspired me to be as free as I was. So as I inspired you guys, Phil the Issue guy inspired me to be more like me. So it just all goes around in one big circle.
And I'm sure there's somebody that's that inspired him, and somebody that John's given inspiration to. So yeah, it just keeps going. And as Richard says, we got a love fest going on here. All right, enough of that. Let's man up and talk about some Spaceballs. So, Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
So I watched it recently, because I hadn't seen it in a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
I did not love it the way I remember it from my childhood, but I still came away from it going hey, it's still pretty funny. Mel Brooks is a very clever man, But there's a lot to love, and especially if you're a sci-fi fan, there's part of the fun for me was trying to pick out all the little shots they were taking at other movies.
Yeah, they took shots at a lot of movies in there. This is Mel Brooks' version of his sci-fi spoof. He had already done a cowboy, a Western one with Blazing Saddles, and then he did one for horror movies when he did the Frankenstein one. So this was his take on this to spoof these films. And as you said, he got just about every film. He did Star Trek, he spoofed. Star Wars, he spoofed. Aliens, he spoofed. He spoofed Wizard of Oz in that movie. So he ran the gamut when he's spoofing people in that movie. So I thought all the actors, look at the whole cast, there's a lot of big names in that cast. He wanted bigger names, he couldn't get them, but the people he did get, I think they were good. You got John Candy's in there, and Joan Rivers is a voice in there too. When you have these actors, and then Mel Brooks is amazing. He's just an amazing creator, always has been. When you have these people and these talents all come together on this movie, I just recently watched it myself to get more update on it, and I say I like it better now that I'm an adult than when I was a child, because I get the jokes. There are a lot of times the jokes when I was younger, they went over my head, but now I get all the jokes, so I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, and a lot of times I laughed along with stuff just the way the actors played them, but I feel like as I've gotten older, it's the same thing, Tony, where I get the jokes more, and I get the references more. When I was a kid, I didn't really know Alien at all. So that was one of the joys of growing up and discovering especially the original Alien and falling in love with that. And so now I get 10 times as much joy with that scene, especially the fact that it's actually John Hurt in that scene. I love it.
Yeah, that's the best part. They actually got this guy in there who had the alien come out. It's just to do it again, have that scene. And this the alien, the alien comes out and you think he starts dancing. You know what I mean? So it's singing a song. So,
and that's a parody of, what is it? Looney Tunes, of the Dancing Frog. Hello, my baby.
Yes,
hello, honey. Yeah. So I'm looking at the poster, and there's 3 names in big print right underneath the title. And it's Mel Brooks, John Candy, and Rick Moranis. Bill Pullman is also starring, which just is a snapshot of a moment in that man's career, because now he might be the first name on the list if they made a modern poster.
I think Mel Brooks is going for it.
Well, okay, fair enough. Okay, but is he going to get a spot above John Candy? Maybe. Is he going to get a spot above Rick Moranis? These days, yes, he is.
At that time, John Candy was huge, though.
Yeah, that
was the peak to get John Candy. And when he got John Candy, he said they had a whole different costume picked out for him. They had this whole big dog face that they wanted to put on the character. It was going to be a bulldog face. And they changed that when they got John Candy, because said, if we're going to have John Candy in this movie, people need to see John Candy. So they changed the whole costume design just for him.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I wouldn't, if I got John Candy in my movie, I'd change the costume too. Man was a legend, and this was at the peak, at the height of his powers, at the peak of his power. Because there towards the end, he made a couple of movies right before he died that were not the best, but he was always great. And this movie, though, this character, it's just so ridiculous.
It was in a good way, So
yeah, sure.
when you look at the way, you know, where he's taking it from, you know, they're obviously taking him from Chewbacca and they're making him a little more funnier Chewbacca. You know, you say, what is Chewbacca? No one, what's a Wookiee? So they said, hey, let's make a dog that's a half human, half man type dog. And but they played it off very well. He did a great job. Give me poor, all the stuff, the way they had him eating milk bones, and his tail and this was just amazing. I guess that costume, when he had that costume on, he had like a 30-pound battery weight on his back while doing it, and he was able to control the tail with a thing that was inside of his left hand, but the ears were controlled by 2 other people off stage. So he had to carry around this big weight on his back while doing all that performance, which people, you know, not a lot of people know about when he did it. It just shows you how committed he was as an actor to do this role.
Well, like just the fact that his name is Barf too. Like, who names a character Barf? Especially a hero character, you know.
That's what makes it great. And then they mess up his name, even though it's Barf. They mess it up throughout the whole movie.
Whatever.
They can't really get it right, you know. So that's just another great point about the whole character, you know. I mean, there's so many memorable characters, and that's the whole thing. And when you look at the theme of the movie, it is, you know, it's almost modern day. I mean, it's still relevant to this day. The actual theme of the movie, that these people, these Spaceballs,
maybe more relevant.
They ruined their environment on their planet, so they had no breathable air anymore. So they're trying to get all the breathable air from a different planet, which is almost where we're at right now. It's that problem that they were dealing with all the way back then. We're still dealing with these environmental issues on our planet today.
Well, I would argue it's much more relevant today than it was then, just because of how bad it's gotten. But I don't know. I don't know that I thought about that, but
yeah. And then the fact that you have the president on the phone saying, yes, there's absolutely no problem whatsoever. And then he hands up the phone and he's breathing in a can of fresh air.
Yeah. Perry air. Perrier, you know, and they had a bunch of things, you know. They had that. They had the princess's jet was a Mercedes Benz,
right?
You know, so they had a couple of like good things like that going on during the movie and stuff, you know. So I like the movie, so I'm all about talking about it
again. Like if there's something hypercritical I have to say, I'm probably going to say it, but I'm much rather prefer to talk about the things I enjoy than things I don't. You know what I mean?
I definitely do.
I will say this, like, Bill Pullman is great in this movie. And this is the first thing I ever saw him in. I'm sure of it.
Is it? I think it is. I think because I think that he was a stage actor, and what happened was he wanted someone else for the role, and they asked 2 people for the role. I forgot who it was, and both people turned it down. That role, but he asked 2 other actors for the role. Can't think of who it was right now. Oh my god, I know this too, but I know both of those actors turned the role down. Mel Brooks was real mad about it. Then he went to a play with his wife, and he seen him in the play, and he casted him just from seeing him in the play, and that's how he got that role.
Okay, well, I just pulled him up on Wikipedia, and his filmography says he did a movie in 1986 called Ruthless People, where he was in a supporting role, but his second movie he ever did was Spaceballs. And I think we see, like...
Who did he want?
I became aware of how great he was when Independence Day came out, and I'm like, wait a minute, Lone Star is the president now? How is this even?
That's so funny that you had that reaction, Stephen, because when that movie came out, because I had, you know, grown up with this movie as a kid, I saw the poster and I was like, Lone Star is in this movie. Yes.
but I was thinking, how am I supposed to take Lone Star seriously as the president? But yeah, he killed that role too. So
yeah, Lone Star. I mean, he's and they made him a hybrid character. They made him Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, right? They mixed his character and gave him both of those roles in there. And you know, and you know, look, the guy's driving around in a goddamn disgusting camper, right? In space. You know, it's terrible. It's got a, you know, that's when they start the bumper sticker situation going on there, the Spaceballs bumper sticker, I think, says we don't stop for anyone. We
break for nobody.
We break for no one. And then his was we love your Uranus.
Yeah, we heart Uranus.
The back of it. So yeah, you know, he was a great cast. Even though they didn't get the guy they wanted for that. I think it was Tom Hanks. Was it Tom Hanks? I think it was. They both with Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise. I think it was two times. I know the people had the same names. So I'm gonna say it was Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise. Someone like that. I know they had the same name that one that they tried to get for that role, and both of them turned it down. So that's who they put in. They casted him, and sometimes things like that work out for you. And this just happened to work out because now I could look. Could Tom Hanks have done it? Tom Hanks can do anything, right? Yeah. So I'm not gonna say he couldn't have done it, but I'm glad this guy did it, and I would rather see this guy do it.
Yeah, I don't want a world where Bill Pullman wasn't Lone Star. So
there is a parallel universe where that exists.
Oh.
But like Lone Star is I guess he plays into that anti-hero archetype, especially early on. You know, he's way more Han Solo than Luke Skywalker, although like as the story goes on, he becomes more and more like Luke Skywalker, what with having the Schwartz and all that. And but
because the first half of the movie, I would say he was that, because you know you got his storyline. You have the same exact storyline basically as you get from Han Solo, right? He doesn't have enough money. He's got problems with this gangster. The gangster is called Pizza the Hut. And then when they have Pizza the Hut, they have a guy, his second in command. They have this metalhead dude. I forgot his name right off the bat, but he was a spoof on the guy, that Maxwell guy from that
Max Headroom.
Max Headroom. So they spoofed Max Headroom with him, and then he had that beef with this guy. He needed to get the money, $1 million $1 and stuff. So that's why he agrees to go on this mission. So that's how he starts off and everything else. But as you see him progress throughout the movie, then he becomes more Luke Skywalker once he starts liking the princess and everything else, and then the sports situation and all of that. But that basically sets up the whole beginning of the movie, how he got involved and everything else. And it shows when dealing with the princess, she's got to marry this prince just because he's a prince, and the king doesn't. The king, who's that? Van Patterson that played the king.
Big Van Patten.
Van Patten that played the king. He's a great actor too. Out of nowhere, he comes in there. So that whole situation, and the actress who played the princess, they all were good. And Joan Rivers as the android voice. I mean, I love Joan Rivers. I truly do. And I'm so happy just to hear her voice. She sets that whole android off. The Matrix is her name, and she sets the whole android off, especially with the virgin warning flashing
right
in there.
That is my virgin alarm. It's programmed to go off before you do.
Yeah.
The actress who played the princess is named Daphne Zuniga. I don't guess she did a whole lot of stuff.
I think she got casted in another Mel Brooks. I think he casted her again in another movie. I think
she's still working, although it looks like a lot of her stuff is TV movies.
Yeah, I do believe he casted her again in another movie Mel Brooks did. He casted her again because he liked the way she played the role. And I liked the way she played the role. I thought it was great.
I did too.
Where they had her in the Mercedes-Benz and Joan Rivers and is talking to her. And she's got the Princess Leia buns on. Then all of a sudden she pulls them off in another Walkman. It's a Walkman on the thing. It's not real hair and stuff like that. I thought that was a good spoof on the Princess Leia buns and everything else. And, and they took a lot of Leia in her, but they still gave her own thing because they, obviously Mel Brooks and them, a lot of them, they're Jewish. So they took this whole Jewish, there's a thing called Jewish American Princesses, right? So they played that all the way up because she was a Druid. So, made her a Druid American princess and stuff, So that's how they played her up. But I thought she did a good job being pompous like that. I think she pulled the pompousy or whatever. I think she did a really good job of pulling that off. And I grew up in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, so believe me, I know exactly how those girls think and how they act. And she definitely did a great job pulling it off.
Now, I thought it was really funny. One of the things that I was kind of rolling my eyes at all the Drewish jokes by the end, but there's another part of me that goes, Mel Brooks, you're Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to tell you not to make those jokes.
No, because jokes, when you deal with, especially when you're dealing with your own people, right?
Yeah.
And jokes, the reason why jokes are funny is because most of it is true, right? If a joke was really 100% fake or anything like that, it wouldn't be as funny. You know what I mean? So he knows he's Jewish. He's dealt with these women. He knows that stuck-up attitude. He's dealt with that, and he understands that. So there's nothing wrong with him joking like that. I mean, people tried to give him grief, or talking about a different movie when he did Blazing Saddles, saying there was some racist stuff in there and everything else. And as a black man, I watched that movie and I don't see any racist stuff in there at all. I thought it was a comedy and it was for its time. So I understand exactly why he did it and why he made the choices in it. So I love that movie also. So I think some people have to look at art for what it is and not get too caught up. You can find fault in anything if you truly want to look hard enough. You could find something to be fault, but just take it for what it is and just look at it for that it's a comedy and be happy to watch it.
I mean, I think that's a solid point, though. And Bernie is pointing out that Daphne Zuniga was on Melrose Place, and Aaron M is telling us that she was also on One Tree Hill.
Nice.
So I guess she did a lot of TV as well.
Two shows I've never watched.
Well, but like she's a working actress, though. She kept getting work, so
that's good. She deserves it. She's a good actress.
I thought she was great in this movie. Like,
when they shot her hair, she went buck wild, man. She they were like, "Oh, that's pretty good." She's like, "Your word is pretty good. That's pretty good for Rambo." What are you talking about?
Well, it also seems like the chat's agreeing with you. Sandry and Jess are both saying, I agree with Tony. So you say something right.
Sand Rixian in the building. And what up to my lady Elamar? I seen her up in here too, and I have a chance to say what up to her. What up to Sandy, baby? What up to y'all? All up here chilling. Go to Sam Rixian's page and buy some stuff. Use the code THUGMUG, and you'll save some money too.
Dang, look at what did I tell you guys? We got a professional here in the house today.
You need to step up our game, Steven.
No, man. If I up my game this week, they'll expect it every week. No. I'm just going to have to look bad in front of Tony for 2 hours.
You're not looking bad at all.
No. We're just having fun.
Listen, the man who stole the show, in all honesty, is Colonel Sanders, right? Out of all the actors that were there, he was the best.
Okay.
I think he's the best. And I think that him and Lord Helmet display, like those two are good enough to have their own movie, their own like running around because they played off each other. They were perfect to play where they played off each other. They should have just made their own series, just like, like Gene Wilder and Richie Pryor. They could have done a movie like that with those two because they were just excellent together. Everything he said, the name Colonel Sanders is just amazing. It's just amazing.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken.
He's an asshole, sir. I know that. What's his name? That is his name.
Major asshole.
Yeah, how many assholes are around here? I'm surrounded by assholes.
See, for me, my favorite character in it is Dark Helmet, the Rick Moranis. Like, he seems like such a middle management type, like Darth Vader sort of has this ominous, I can choke you to death from across the room, and but like this is everything that he's just like the bad boss at your local office,
Exactly. And look, the outfit's iconic. He's got a tie on, right? He's got a tie in his outfit. His helmet, it looks is like the Great Gazoo on the Flintstones, right? He's got this humongous helmet on there. He comes up there, and the best part about it, where he played it, is that he changed his voice every time he put the helmet down. Is when he did the Darth Vader voice, and as soon as he pulled it up, then he did his regular voice. So I thought that was a great for him to make that choice to do that and stuff, And it's like when he first comes in there, and they spoofed the whole Darth Vader choke, and he puts the ring. He's like, oh, like, oh no! And he just aims right for the guy's balls. Just sits him right in the balls. And then after that, every time he goes, people just keep covering up their balls. Every time they don't like what he say, he doesn't like what they say. But I thought it was just amazing. I thought he just did an amazing job as Dark Helmet. I mean,
Yeah. So that's just Sanri saying, yeah, if you use Thug Mug, you get 15% off on her store.
15% off for using Thug Mug, baby.
It's a steal of a deal, man. I would use it if I didn't already have all the stuff that she makes.
See, we're talking about all these moments, though, and I'm just resisting the impulse to just, recite every line from the movie because it's just so much fun. But
you're not resistant. Let it go, because that's how you know, right? When there's a movie that is just so classic, the lines from the movie. There's a lot of good movies out there, but when it really touches you or something when you recite the lines from movies, like Shawshank Redemption. I can recite that. I can recite Dirty Dancing lines from Dirty Dancing. I can recite lines from New Jack City. I can recite lines from The Color Purple. When you put that much effort into it, and it really just sticks with you, those lines. Then you find that sometimes you use some lines in your real life. You find a way to put them in from natural conversation. I mean, listen, when the guy is sitting there and he's playing with the action figures, and he's sitting there and he's like, "Oh no, your helmet's so big. You have such a big helmet," and then he gets caught playing with the action figures. I mean, as a child, I did that with those action figures. You know what I mean? I played with action figures. I didn't say that, but I've said similar things. With that. So it's just great to see them actually do that.
Knock on my door. Not next time.
Yeah, that's the best part is that Sanders walks in on him, and it's like he's like that 15-year-old teenage boy who didn't lock his door, and his parents walked in. Because he has that like screaming at the top of I can't even do it,
But they don't even call him action figure. He goes, "You didn't see anything, right?" He goes, "No, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again." And that's it. So you have those situations. Then you have Mel Brooks. Same type of situation is when you're dealing with Mel Brooks as the president. And this lady just keeps coming up on the Jumbotron everywhere he's at, whether he's in the room in the bedroom with the two blonde haired chicks with the names he can't keep straight. And and she pops up then. She pops up when he's in the bathroom going to the bathroom. This lady just keeps popping up. And then they do the spoof for Star Trek where they do the beam me up. He's like, "All right, beam me over there." And they beam him up, and his ass is in his front and his backwards. So they send him back. And she's like, "Oh, I'm going to re-beam you." He's like, No, I'll come down. And you think, hey, they beam Star Trek, they beaming someone from planet to the ship. This is a far distance. This dude's in the next room. He's right there. He's 5 steps away from them. And they beam him over there. Why would you even consider that at all?
Because it's stupid and it's funny. That's why. That's one thing Mel Brooks has always been fantastic at. And I do like a lot of Mel Brooks comedies. A lot of times when you get to the really, really silly type of comedy, it can be too much for me. Like, I've never been a Three Stooges fan, but I think Mel Brooks can hit that line pretty well for me. Or I can come away and going, "God, that was stupid," but I also laugh like 112 times in an hour and a half, which is not bad.
Yeah, no, Mel Brooks is a master at spoofs at what he's doing there. He's like the Weird Al Yankovic of movies, right? So he could pull them off, and no matter what the genre is.
That's a solid comparison.
Weird Al done spoofed everything, right? What genre music?
I can't contain myself. I really can't.
But no, Mel Brooks is a genius in everything, without a shadow. I really wish they would have been able to pull off a Spaceballs 2 movie. People even talk about it still to this day, but I think
yes. I saw somebody say something earlier in the chat about it. Oh yeah, right here, Anna. I'm still waiting for the sequel.
Yeah.
Like if it ever comes out, I'm gonna ride if it's not called The Search for More Money. Like it better be.
And that's another thing, he spoofed on the whole, the money business about
Yes.
the whole thing of how these shows are making money, because even when he goes and he becomes a yogurt character, right? So he wants spoofs on yogurt, and then they have them come down the aisle, with the big Wizard of Oz theme, and it basically is the Wizard of Oz when you really look at it. I mean, it's just about the same setup, and I truly didn't think of it that time, like Star Wars is like the Wizard of Oz, and they point that out right then. When you look at the characters, you got the dog as the lion, you got your princess as Dorothy, you have all your people. You have the Tin Man, you have the android as a Tin Man, you have all the people there that are all set up for the Wizard of Oz, and yogurt comes out and everything else, and he does the whole merchandising act. They have the merchandise right there, the merchandising room back there and everything else, and
Baseball.
The kids love this one.
Oh, the flamethrower! I mean, I want the flamethrower right
Me
now.
too.
Right now, I would love to have a damn flamethrower right now.
I'm 45 years old and I still want one.
Oh, without that. And the reason why he did that in the movie was because he had to get permission from George Lucas to do this film. And George Lucas granted him a permission to do it, but he said, you guys cannot make any merchandise at all. So he wouldn't allow them to sell any action figures or anything like that after the movie. They had to sign a contract to agree not to do that. So that's the reason why he put that in there as a smite to George Lucas for not allowing him to sell his own merchandise and stuff. So that was that whole reason. And then, listen, they talk to the camera, right? They let you know the audience there. They literally take a VCR tape and say, hey, we're gonna get Spaceballs the movie. You got a new system going on right now where you can get VCR tapes before the movie comes out. They're like, really? Can you do that?
Can I just say, like, as a film buff, some of my favorite stuff in this movie is just the breaking the fourth wall stuff. Like right from the beginning when they're describing, the villain's plan, and Dark Helmet turns to the screen and goes, everybody got that? It's just all that stuff's great. And then when the camera comes right up to him and knocks him out and he falls back, it's like, I just love all that stuff. It's great.
And he slashes the camera guy with the lightsaber. He cuts him down. But they go, he's like, oh, we can't find these people. What are we going to do? Oh, get the VCR tape with this, rewind the movie, and we'll figure out where they went and everything else. And then they do basically like a who's on first, who's on second joke there. And like, oh, where are we at? We're here now. When we're not going to be now. We're going to be now later. Later's not going to be now. Now we're down. And they go through that whole situation. So I thought they did a good job with that joke too. And that was the whole combing the desert. And then they said, the guy goes, do you think we're taking this a little bit too literal? He goes, no, we're following orders. They got these big ass combs and they're breaking through the desert. And then when they have the black people, they don't have the comb, they have the pick.
They have the hair pick.
We ain't found shit.
We ain't found shit. And I used to have that same exact pick growing up. I had that same exact fucking pick. When I had that same company, same pick. I had that pick. So that was hilarious right there.
John, did you see the message I had up just now?
Sorry, which one was that?
This one right here.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Moving on. Leaf, your protest has been noted.
Yeah, I don't even know. We can't add emojis to the to the YouTube chat, can we?
I don't know if there's a way to do that, but
yeah, I don't know.
We'll try to get one in the Slack.
You do what? Put the YouTube comments?
Yeah, well, we have our Slack group and we have a bunch of custom emojis.
Oh,
yeah.
You could do that if you have a subscription. If you're able to make subscriptions on your channel, then
you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers before you can do that.
Oh, yeah, that's the way you can do custom emojis. Is that?
Yeah, okay. but you have to be monetized, and that requires at least 1,000 subscribers. Which I ain't there yet, but
we could get you there. Come on,
but like real talk. I want the cream of the crop. So like
we can get you to 1,000 subscribers. I'm sure we could do that.
Hey man, we do this because we like it. It ain't about the numbers, not for me. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why everyone should do it, right? You should do it because it's something that you enjoy to do and it brings you happiness in your life. When things start doing that and you start doing it for monetary reasons, it's a job, right? That's when it's just a job. And no one wants to do that, unless you love your job. Well, no one really likes to do that. This is just something that's just to hang out and just to have a good time. And I think when you have that mentality, that's when you go farther than when you just look at it as a straight business. I mean, you do have to look at it as a business at some point, but you still have to have the love for doing what you're doing.
Right. Well, that's why I'm perfectly happy with the state of the channel where it is. Let's just say that, but I wouldn't say no to growth, but like, I'm very happy where we're at because we got some really fantastic people that show up every week. And I think you brought a few with you, Tony. Or at least a couple of people are here because we got you, but.
Well, that's great. I'm happy that they did. And they should subscribe to your channel if that is the case. Subscribe to Steven Stark's channel.
And if you're not subscribed to Tony, you're doing it wrong anyway. I was subscribed to Tony long before I even thought about making my own channel, and it took me a couple years to get started on that. So I've been watching this man for a minute since probably 2014, I imagine.
I don't know.
Long time.
It has been a while without a shower. It's been
okay. Jay Isboard says showing foots will bring the viewers. Just saying. Well, I'm not wearing shoes right now, so.
What is this?
There you go. Look, beat video. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Who said that? Who said that?
Jay Isboard.
Is he Kinky Dinky Dora on the low?
I mean, I don't know, but I thought it was funny. So.
There's this one person who came by my stream one time named Kinky Dinky Dora and had a picture of a cat. And every time, that's all they were asking, show your feet. I want to lick your feet the whole time. So I'm thinking,
don't think so.
Is Jay really kinky on the low?
I mean, I guess it's possible. And Sanrixine is demanding more Tony on Here Be Dragons. Well, I'm sure we can make that work.
Well, yeah, anytime you need me, I would definitely be there. I'm not showing my feet, goddammit. That ain't gonna happen. I ain't doing that. That ain't gonna happen. I mean, I'll come on as long as those rules don't apply to me.
Okay, as I said before we started, my job is to steer us away from the iceberg, so I'm going to point us back towards this movie. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I really did that. Okay.
Very flexible. I mean, Jesus.
I'm just sitting here watching.
You're a flexible guy to give you a good report there. Not anyone could do that, man.
Okay. I refuse to go any further down this road. So, Rick Moranis is the best part of this movie. Y'all are breaking me, man.
Oh, I bet she gives good helmet.
Yes. And actually, I guess maybe you said Colonel Sanders, and I think it's maybe Dark Helmet, but those two are side by side through the whole movie. So they're constantly playing off of each other as well.
Yeah, I mean,
when they go to what was it? There was light speed, then
ludicrous speed,
and he's like, I command you to stop. And he goes, we can't stay.
Oh shit! I order you. Stop.
This is his face when he said, we can't stay. We had to go down.
Hey, JP agrees with me. I love me some Rick Moranis. But god dang that. And just when they hit the brakes and he goes flying across, and as somebody, I mean, I've seen a lot of movies and I know my special effects, and watching him kind of wiggle as he flies in a straight line, but just it's not quite perfect and your eye could tell. To me, that's hilarious too.
It is.
I do not know what you're talking about, Stephen. That is
right. It was flawless.
all right.
Flawless.
Special
Every
effects are
aspect.
perfection in this movie. I will hear nothing about it.
That's what he had to do it. And then he gets to say, he goes, "You're lucky you had the helmet on." He's like, "Okay."
Yes, and the way he's just like, cool. Yeah.
How's everybody doing today?
Are we stopped? Yes, sir. We're stopped. Well, how about we take a 5-minute break? Very good, sir.
Yep, this is so good. And I think Sandry is driving back home, and
we're gonna get her into it.
We're going to cause her to have a car accident, maybe. So,
well, no, that's not how we.
Yeah, exactly. Leaf's got the right idea. Let's stop being funny now.
And we can't let that happen because she said she's watching Hamilton when she gets back.
Right.
So it's very important that she makes it all the way.
I think I'm going to try to watch that tonight.
But yeah, no, it is the two actors together, though, in my opinion, because they play off each other so well, and then of course once Mel Brooks comes in, it becomes a trio with the three of them. It's great.
Oh yeah, you know, and then they got the salute for the president. Everywhere he goes, everywhere he goes, and all that. So everything about that movie was really good. Mel Brooks playing two parts in the movie. You know, he did a great job. He had to do it was very painful, I guess, when he was playing yoga because he had to do it on his knees the whole time when he played the character. So it really messed up his knees, that part and everything else. And I guess it took him a very long time to get the makeup on every day and stuff like that. You know, and he's not a young man in that movie. You know, he's not like he's 20 years old when he made that movie. So, you know, just to come up with do all that and stuff like that, you got to commend him. You see a lot of people do that now. Eddie Murphy is famous for playing multiple characters in one movie. You know, if you want to think of one, obviously the Nutty Professor that played the whole Clump family in that movie, Eddie Murphy. You know, but that's all it started. Mel Brooks is really the first guy to really truly go out there and play multiple parts in all of his movies prior to this one and to this one like that. He was known for that. Yeah,
it looks like Mel Brooks would have been about 57 or 58 when they were shooting that movie.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is Colonel Sanders because the way he's like always preparing for everything, you know. Oh, prepare to fast forward. Preparing to fast forward. Fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir.
Stop preparing.
You're always preparing. Just go.
Always preparing for stuff. And another spoof they did too. I next left out with Planet of the Apes. They
right there at the end.
At the end of the movie, they spoof Planet of the Apes. He goes, "Oh no,
oh shit! There goes the planet."
There it goes.
They even so like even on the opening soundtrack, they're spoofing Jaws.
Yes, they are.
I mean, I don't know that
Jaws.
It's not exactly John Williams' score from Jaws there, but it's real close.
It is definitely what I wish John Davento was here. He'll tell you exactly this, but no doubt that's a Jaws theme that they're using there for that.
Well, that's
definitely using the Jaws theme.
Tony, you don't realize that I got my own soundtrack expert right there.
Yeah,
there it is.
Before that, we've got that great opening title, which is, you know, it's clearly a take on, you know, the Star Wars main title, but it really does stand on its own, and it's. I did want to talk a bit about this, where it's part of the reason for the movie's staying power for me is that, you know, beyond just making jokes at the expense of all these other movies, you know, the film does have a lot of heart, and it's just sort of joyous on its own terms, and the music is just so much fun to listen to. That main title theme is probably one of my favorite movie themes of all time, and it just makes you smile really big whenever you hear it. So
it's real. I mean, right when the movie starts, the first scene when you see you see the ship, and this ship is big as motherfucker. It just doesn't stop going.
That's why they break for nobody.
Yeah, you would think like, you think that even when it's like halfway through, all right, it's gonna end, but no, no, it just keeps going on and on and on and on. It just does not stop, this big ass ship. And then even when they they do silly stuff like, oh, they're gonna catch us on a radar. What should we do? Not if we jam the radar. And then they shoot up a jar of strawberry jam. Was it strawberry? No, it's raspberry. Raspberry jam. Because after they hit it with the raspberry jam, it comes down the computer screen, and the guy tastes it. He's like, only Lone Star would raspberry me.
And then, like, literally the camera is zooming in on him, but it hits him in the face.
Yeah.
It knocks him right on his ass too. You got that, and then they made fun of the Transformers. And they did it before the Transformers This is before the Transformers had a movie that you never seen a Transformer like live action, like you've seen the cartoons do it, but you never seen a live action Transformer type movie like that. And that was the first time you ever see anything like that on screen. I think
that joke may have given me more joy as a kid than anything else in the movie, because that was a joke for me, Like all this other stuff might have gone over my head a bit, but the fact that they actually said, that's not just a spaceship, it's a transformer. Right.
And it's a maid of all things. They picked the transform to. It transformed to a mega maid. They call it on a swipe from Megatron from the
No, they call it doom 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 mega maid. You gotta break away to the timpani drummer before you say mega maid, I think.
Everything. They did a really good job of packing in all the movies that they wanted to make fun of and putting them in there seamlessly, where it didn't seem like any time it was actually forced when they did those things. So I think they did a tremendous job doing that. It's just once again, it's the genius of Mel Brooks, and knowing how to do it and how to be funny, and yes, did they have some cheap humor jokes? Of course they do. That in that era, that's what you get, and that's what it's supposed to be. That's just the way movies were made back then, but does it hold up? The special effects, for the time, they held up to the special effects of that time. They weren't far off of what Star Wars.
No, they were fine
at that time.
Yeah, and there's nothing right. I mean, sure, stuff is dated, but it's not, not to the point so much that it takes me out of the movie. It's no. I still have no problem just accepting what I'm seeing on screens.
Yeah.
God,
every time I think, I just keep coming up with like their clever bits, like when they're being chased on the base and then they catch the stunt doubles.
Yeah.
And they turn around and like Princess Vespa's stunt double has got a beard and everything, and I'm just like, that is so funny because that's Hollywood. Like there is some guy whose job it is to pretend to put on a dress and go jump out of an exploding building.
No doubt about it.
Although in the modern era, I guess there are a lot more women who are stunt performers, but like in the 80s, it was vast majority men.
And it wasn't even that big of a stunt. They just dove through a little crack in the door. It wasn't like they fell off the building. When you really need a stunt double for that one scene, you need someone to be a stunt double. So it was just hilarious. They used that one scene for a stunt double, but that was a great scene.
Oh crap! Look who popped into the chat.
Big Phil right there. Let's just see what's he say. Especially that opening ship shot holds up so much more, and all the space flight stuff looks just as good as Star Trek and Star Wars at the time. I gotta agree with Phil right there. You know what I mean? Phil should be on the. Phil could rip this down. He knows all about this stuff. This is up Phil's alley. He knows about all this stuff. But yeah, it truly does. And I should have wrote down exactly how many movies they definitely spoofed in there, and things they spoofed in there, because he did a whole lot of stuff in there. He definitely they definitely did a great job with that. Fill the Issues guys, Tony Teflon, Golden Girls coverage. Yeah, we are doing the Golden Girls podcast. We're gonna do that. Me and Phil. We're gonna get that done. I promise you that.
Oh, I'm so there for it.
I promise we'll get that done. We'll go through all of them.
Phil, we were talking about you just a little bit right there at the top.
Mm-hmm.
At the top of the stream. So
definitely were. Yeah,
I'm glad you had a chance to pop by. But like, there is so much, because it's not just spoofing the movies. It's like meta spoofing. Even it's spoofing the film industry and the merchandising, like you say, and the like camera movement actually running into stuff instead of like the smooth pans like you get in movies. It's just Mel Brooks really understands how to make a movie and how to make a movie really badly and how to make a movie really well. And I think a lot of that's on display is that he knows how to make a movie really badly, really well at the right time so that it just plays off as a great joke.
Without a doubt. And he has a lot of, he takes a lot. It's from that Benny Hill comedy era, where the women all show their boobs, like every woman all show their boobs, always got cleavage hanging out, and they do silly jokes like that. And I think that's what makes that's what helps that movie. It's simple things, like the robot going up the ladder, and you got Barf behind him. And she's like, "Stop staring at my can," and he goes, "Sorry." Like he was actually doing it,
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, staring at a robot's ass? But he was really doing it because he said sorry. So she knew exactly what was going on. This guy was staring at some robot ass, and the fact that she had roller skates on, just about the whole thing. She's escaping. She's hanging on to his tail, and he's dragging her around, and she's just going out like that. All these little things that they put in the movie, that, all make that movie work and everything else. So this is a really good scene. And then when they deal with the dealing with the Swartz, and they put it in a ring, instead of a lightsaber, they have it coming out of a ring, and he pulls it out. He pulls his lightsaber out. He pulls his lightsaber. It's probably one of the most iconic lines, I would say, in all of Hollywood, for all comedies. I don't care what anybody says.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Yes, I think you can make a T-shirt with that right now.
Yeah.
If you say that line, everyone knows where that line is from.
Okay, that's an excellent question. Actually, what do you think is like the iconic line from this movie? Because I've thought about it myself, and the one I came up with is from the same scene, but it's not that same line, and it is, "I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate."
What does that make us?
Absolutely nothing.
That's a great line. I think the Swartz line, "I see your Swartz is as big as mine," because
That's a great one.
Because it's so quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so right there that I think it's just, I think that is probably the most iconic line for the whole. There's so many of them, but I would say that one.
Okay.
I think "I see your Swartz is as big as mine." I think that's what it is. I would have to go with that one.
John, you got a different take on it?
Oh, I don't know, because now that one's just sticking in my head. I'm trying to.
Padar's got a good line too, though. Ludicrous speed. Like, we've all used that ever since this movie came out. That has been like. The
problem is because I grew up with this movie watching with my dad, so like all the lines just stick out where we just say them all over again. So it's hard for me to try and narrow one down, but I do think it is probably the Schwartz line. I think you're right about that, Tony.
What's as big as mine? Let's see how good you use it. I think ludicrous speed is a line. I mean, you can make a T-shirt of that right now. Ludicrous speed, and you put it in there right there.
People would know.
Yep, Danny McKay, "Man, we ain't found shit." That's a classic line.
You know what? But I'm also going to go with, "I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes."
Yeah, that's a good one too.
That's a good line too. That's too many. There's too many. I mean, the whole thing is like a walking one-liner. Like every joke is like a one-liner from comedy, like Rodney Dangerfield said. It's a punch. That's the way every joke is there. You know what I mean? I bet she gives great helmet. I mean, that's just an amazing line right there. And then Colonel Sanders' face when he said this, he's like, it's like that, you know. So I there's too many of them.
There's too many.
There's too many.
I also do love the exchange 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's ridiculous. That's the kind of thing an idiot would have on his luggage. Cut to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's amazing. I've got the same combination on my luggage.
That's actually pretty good Mel Brooks, John.
And then he goes, all right, hurry, let's shake on it. And he's like, oh, I can't believe you fell for that. How stupid is you being that you fell for that?
It's the oldest trick in the book, man. Come on.
Come on, man. Really? And then they had this guy doing backflips to avoid stuff. This guy never did a backflip in his life. He never looked like he do that. Spaceballs the flavor. The kids love this one. Yeah, that is a great line. You can make shirts with these lines.
You really could.
Right now, if you did a thing, you could take. If you do Game of Thrones, even if we're all Game of Thrones fans, most of us here, and you had anyone, whether it was the Hound fighting Brienne, and you put those swords in that position, and you put that looks like your sword is as big as mine, people buy that motherfucking shirt, right? There'd be no doubt. If you talk about people in Game of Thrones from the show just going from Winterfell to King's Landing in one day, you could say ludicrous speed. People would understand that and they would take that because that's exactly what's going on right there.
I have a question though, because you mentioned about George Lucas and the whole merchandising. Mm-hmm. Does that hold true to today, or have they made Spaceballs?
No, I don't think there's any Spaceballs toys that I've know of that ever came out.
There are some, but they are like the unofficial made in China type stuff.
That's such a shame.
Yeah, it was. George Lucas put the, he put the big helmet on it. He was acting like a big helmet on that one, and everything else. So he should have allowed them to make some money on that merchandise. That's what he says. Merchandise where the real money is made. It's not about the movies. It's about that, because that's what Star Wars set off. When Star Wars really came out, really showed how, hey, the real money is in the toys and in this movie shit. This movie shit is just a way to sell toys, and it still continues today. Whether every superhero movie you see, the only reason they change these guys' costumes to sell more toys. And that's it. Or you'd see the same costume film after film after film, but they have to do this just to sell toys. So it's really still that is the model that George Lucas put in place with the Star Wars toys, but he was being very greedy. He should have just took a piece of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he should have got a piece of the action.
Give me 2% of whatever you sell instead of just blocking them from selling everything.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Somebody trying to set you off, Tony.
What happened?
Children of the Forest are creepy peeping Tom mofo.
I think they're actually correct in that.
I know you do. You know what? Maybe I'll give you a chance to talk about that here in a second, but we've been going for about an hour, so I'm going to do my mid-roll, all right?
Do your thing.
So, hey, y'all, thanks for everybody for coming. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. If you want to be a patron, there's link is down in the description. I've got Tony's links down in the description, both for Twitter and YouTube. John's stuff's down there. All the links are down there in the bottom. And I got to give a couple Patreon shout outs. First and foremost, John Bronsteen. Thank you very much, buddy, at the top level, giving that Patreon love. Also, Sixto Sounds, who is in the chat right now, my real life buddy, JP. Thanks, buddy. We love you here. And then, of course, Sean. Ridiculous Ed Tollett. Also, I saw him in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here. Anyway, much love to all you guys. Thanks for showing support. Next week, I am not going to be here. It's going to be John and Nessie doing something I don't know nothing about, but I've got a chance to hang out with the kids, and I haven't had a chance to do that because, lockdown stuff. So I'm going to be spending some time with the kids next weekend. And while the cat's away, the mice are going to play. So yeah, and after that, I'm not sure what we got going on, but we'll keep you all in the loop. John, what do you got coming up this week on your channel?
All right, so turns out, even though I said that it wasn't going to be, the stream will actually be on Thursday this week, but the time will be different. It'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern. I mean, because Sanri and I will be doing a stream together about the Terry Gilliam film Brazil. So please be sure to stop in, guys. I'm getting ready to probably watch the film tonight, and it's going to be my first time ever seeing it. So we'll have a lot to talk about. So yeah,
very cool. And then something next week, and I don't know what. I guess I'm being kept in the dark. Tony, what do you got coming up, man?
I hope that I've never seen Brazil. I hope it's good. I hope it's not like Human Centipede, because that was terrible.
No, it's certainly not going to be.
That movie was terrible. I hate that movie. That movie gets me. That's terrible. That movie. All right, I got a couple of things. I got a video coming out tomorrow. I was going to drop it today, but it'll come out tomorrow about 1 o'clock. It is definitely figured out who the 3 heads of the dragon are without a shadow of a doubt. So I go through that in that video of exactly who are the 3 heads of the dragon. And not only do I tell you exactly who the 3 heads of the dragon are, I tell you what role they will all play when it comes to fighting the White Walkers, when it comes to Winds of Winter and all that. I am on a couple of people's channel that coming out, that should be coming out. I haven't done one, so I'm going on Joe the Magician's channel to talk about Sir Barristan Selmy and the Winds of Winter. I'm doing that. All right, I'm doing that. So I think that's Saturday. This Saturday coming up. I got postponed 2 weeks in a row because of the situations going on just with the holidays and stuff. Just kept popping up. So we got postponed for that reason. And then I already recorded this ep already, and I am on Robert from Indeed's Geeks channel. I just recorded that with him. And I'm talking about we're talking about the children of the forest actually on there, and I explain how they're disgusting little tree humpers in his video. So we went through that whole situation right there. So those 3 things you could look forward to. And now I see that StreamYard allows you to have 10 people on one stream
if you have the paid version,
and I do. And so I'm going to talk to LMR. And I'm going to see if we can get 10 people this week to do a stream with me and LMR. We want to get 10 people. I'm going to have her do the contacting of people, because it's always better when a good-looking person contacts you other than myself. So I'm going to have her contact 10 people and see if we can get them on. See if we can do a massive 10 people stream, because I don't think I've ever done anything like that. So I just want to come out here and do 10 people on the stream. That's got to be amazing.
Well, good luck to you. That's too many people for me, my man.
I just want to see what it looks like to have all those people on the stream at one time.
I got you.
You know, so we'll give it a shot and see how it goes with 10 people. We'll see how it goes. We'll get a bunch of people on there and see what it is. But LMR's got to let her contact the people so that they don't say no.
Right on, right on. Well, cool. So that's what's coming up from all of us. And other than that, so we usually like to have our schedule pretty hammered out, but we are not. We haven't been able to schedule much in advance. I'm reaching out to a lot of people right now to try to get some new guests to come aboard and to share, whatever it is we're talking about, just to share their point of view with us. Tony is the first in a long line of people, hopefully, that we're trying to expand our inclusivity. You know what I mean? I'm not going to make too big a deal about this, but it was about a month ago when you released a statement to the fandom at large, and we took it to heart here, and we're trying to. We're 3 white folks. We can't help that we're 3 white folks working together. It's what we do, but. We're much more conscious of trying to not just be supportive, but actually reach out to people to work together with them. And you were the first person to say yes, Tony, but we've got other people in the wings coming on here be dragons. John had Carol Brown on just the other day. Sanri and so did Nessie last week for her dragon stream, and I'm trying to get Monaro to come on and talk about some Expanse since you just watched that. So fingers crossed, y'all. We'll get some good folks up in here.
You will.
All right, that haven't been said.
I'll say, I appreciate you having me on, and I did make a statement a little bit ago, and I hate the fact that I truly had to make a statement. Not saying I had to make a statement to get on other people's channel. That's not the case, but had to inform what it seemed like. Not, and as I said in the statement, I don't think people consciously do things. I think sometimes things happen and subconsciously they don't even know what's going on. It's happening and stuff like that. So I truly do appreciate you having me on, and I think it'll be great to have Monero and all those other people on, because this fandom is have a lot of different diverse people in there, and from different backgrounds, and your upbringing and your background and everything else makes you see things in a different perspective. So it's always good to have a different person's take on it, and it can open your eyes when it comes on to different things and stuff like that. So I truly appreciate you having me on here and allowing me to speak my piece on your channel and stuff. And as I said, you always been my friend. We always been cool since day one we met. You know what I mean? We've always been cool. You got on the Ride the Dragon challenge. You said you're gonna do it. You didn't back out. You went right on there, and you got on that dragon, and you did your thing. And and it was great. Me and Phil, the Issue guys, are doing a video on it. We're gonna do live commentary on the Ride the Dragon challenge. So we're gonna have all the footage of all that stuff like that. So it's gonna be it's gonna be great. And just thank you again. I really truly appreciate you having me out here.
Yeah, man, it's been a great pleasure to have you. Look, we just want to have people on who love something. We want to talk about the thing that we love, And if you're loving this movie and John's loving this movie and I'm enjoying this movie, then we're doing it right. All right, so Spaceballs, what else is to be said?
There's too much to be said. We covered a lot. We have covered a lot. And we went through a lot of the storyline and everything else being with Spaceballs.
There's probably something left to be said. We've heaped a lot of praise on Mel Brooks about the way he sort of took bits and pieces from all these different movies. But he did that with Blazing Saddles. He did that with Men in Tights. He did that with Young Frankenstein, where he borrowed just enough from each different thing and scratched the serial numbers off, but you could still tell what it was from.
Mm-hmm. He's very good at making movies that aren't funny. Frankenstein is not, there's no comedy in there. In the original Frankenstein, there's nothing comedical about it. It's not a comedy movie, but when you see his movie, he points out things that that when you see the movie, that you realize, oh, that was funny, and he's great at pointing things like that out. I feel that way for a lot of movies that I watch, that a lot of things make me laugh when I watch them. I'm supposed to take it seriously, but I just laugh at certain things, like Scarface is not supposed to be a comedy to me. It's not, to anyone, but to me, that's one of the most funniest movies in the world. I laugh at Al Pacino every time he says a word. He makes me laugh, and his fake accent makes me laugh, and it sounds so silly, and everything about it, him dancing, I love it. So I find those are the type of things I do. To me, like The Sopranos is a great series of all time. To me, The Sopranos is a comedy more than anything else. When I look at The Sopranos, it's a comedy. It's just a comedy show. It may not be a comedy in the same light as Seinfeld or Cheers, but to me, I always looked at The Sopranos as a comedy. That's just what I see it as. So I think that he's a master at taking something that people look at as serious and then showing you that, hey, this is pretty funny, some of the things that they're doing in there, and pointing them out.
I think I'm scared of you a little bit more than I was a minute ago. When you told me The Sopranos is a comedy, I'm just like, whoa.
It is. If you listen to what they say and the way things go in that movie, That show is hilarious. Tony Soprano is hilarious. A bunch of one-liners. He's hilarious. And again, like there's one scene where Tony is driving, and he's chasing the guy down, and he moves and he hits a lady, and knocks her over the car. Well, look, when he hits this lady from the back, they have this lady's ass hit right on the windshield that she tumbles over. They had her ass hit that windshield so you would laugh. That's the reason. This like in Spaceballs, when you look at the characters and they put the padding on the guys' asses, right? Like they put 2 paddings of armor on each guy's ass cheek, right?
For no good reason.
For a reason, right?
I have to say, earlier I was watching some because I watched the movie a couple weeks ago when we were originally going to do this stream, but I did rewatch some scenes this morning. And I just got to one scene where you had a whole bunch of those guys lined up, and I'm like, just look at those costumes. They're ridiculous.
Ridiculous is the right word.
Yeah, their helmets all their helmets are like the Flintstones, Great Gazoo. They're
Spaceballs.
They're all Spaceballs.
That's why they're Spaceballs. Anyway, yeah, I'm not even sure what else needs to be said. Although there is one thing that I did notice while watching, and this might be more for John than Tony, but feel free to chime in, Tony. I was kind of amazed at how much of this movie did not have a soundtrack behind it or a score at all. Like, kind of almost blown away.
That's interesting. I mean, I do think that's a testament to also in the older films in general. I think it's a very modern thing to have like constant score throughout a film. I think years back they were okay with letting certain moments. That's why, I mean, there's a lot of films nowadays that you feel like are constantly moving, have very sort of kinetic energy because it's a style of filmmaking, whereas back a couple decades, a lot of movies were allowed to kind of breathe, and a lot of that is the music, where, like this film has really memorable music, and so when the music plays, it sticks with you. But yeah, there's moments throughout where you can just have 2 characters talking to each other, and there's no score behind it. So yeah, I think it sort of harkens back to just when the film was made. But it's funny, I've never really thought about it, because when I think of Spaceballs, I inevitably think of the music because it's such a key component for me. And not just like the main music where it's this triumphant theme. There's a lot of sort of melancholy, like romantic music too, which I was going to mention this moment earlier. It's about halfway through the movie when they're on Yogurt's planet, and there's that love scene between Lone Star and the princess, and it's very like the way they play the dialogue is like really kind of over the top, but it's got that old style like Hollywood romance music behind it, and so it's great. It kind of goes with what you were saying, Stephen, about Mel Brooks knows how to make, a movie like badly but really well. So right. It's like that over the top, like roll your eyes kind of dialogue, but it works. It works brilliantly because of the way it's played. And there's so much earnestness with the way those actors pull it off. So I love that. And the music is a key part of that. And also, this is kind of veering off what we're actually talking about, but there's a moment following that, which I just love, which is when, everybody's woken up and Lone Star's like, all right, everybody get some sleep. We've, got to, head out early. And he's like, oh, why so early? Because we're not going to get very far once that blazing sun hits above the head. And then it fades in, and Barf is like, nice dissolve.
Right.
And again, as an editor, I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can imagine that's a great joke for you as an editor.
It is great. It's me making videos because I use the dissolve all the time in my movies. So it's great. I see Sarah Rixian saying she is here for the ass padding talk. I'll tell you, Sarah Rixian, I'm sure a couple of women I was wish they had those ass paddings when I was behind them because they know about me, the Don Tony Teflon. I get back there, I go bananas. I
also want to Phil brought this up.
But Phil did say again that Michael Winslow, black dude, had a great time. Listen, that guy, Police Academy fame, you know what I mean, from doing his voices and everything else, and he got a good credit, you know what I mean, at the end, like he was one of the stars. They gave him a big credit, like they gave one of the main cast members a credit in there and everything else. So, you know, he did do a really good job with his voices and that I loved that guy back then. He's like 80s to me, like he's like one of those 80s actors, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially from the Police Academy movies and stuff and everything else, you know. I love the Police Academy movies, especially the first couple of them. I love, you know, they got a little crazy.
I do actually want to point out another actor in the film who we haven't really mentioned because he's got a bit part. It's the actor's name is Ronnie Graham. He plays the minister.
Okay.
He is just priceless in the couple of scenes he's in. You know, we are here to see, you know, Prince Valium and Princess Beth, you know, running down the ramp and, you know, out the door.
My favorite line from that guy is, "Don't be sorry, be quiet."
Yeah. And then the ship comes in from
Prince Valium.
We're here to join them in the bonds of holy moly.
Prince Valium, the guy's just passed out the whole time. He can't stay away.
A play on Prince Valiant, which is that old like comic strip that was in newspapers since I don't know, it's been in newspapers since newspapers were the best way to get your news. But like Prince Valiant becomes Prince Valium, becomes a guy who can't stay awake, and like of course. And but Michael Winslow too, like that scene where he's talking about the raid and the radar has been jammed and all that, and he's like, "Sir, can you please come down here?" And then like he's talking to, "Sir, can you please come down here?" When they're standing right next to him, puts it down, "Sir, can you please?" And the way Dark Helmet just freaks out in that hot second and like rips it out of the console. Like, I don't know if that's something you really script or, you know, I know Mel Brooks has a lot of times where he lets his people just kind of play and be a little bit ridiculous to see what they come up with, you know? But, yeah, just the way that Rick Moranis practically jumps on the freaking countertop and rips the thing out of the console. It's one of the best moments to me.
He's the key master, right? That's what he is. Is he the key master? He is the key master from Ghostbusters, right?
Yes, he is the key master.
And he retired. I think they said the reason why they really weren't able to get part 2 off is because him retiring.
Although I've heard he's talking about coming back to acting. Although, you know, he's been out of it for years and years now.
It's such a shame because, you know, I just consider Rick Moranis to be such a sort of, you know, major part of my childhood growing up because he was in so much from, you know, this to Ghostbusters to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Mm-hmm. So I love the man. So I you know, I hope he does come back to movies.
Okay, so you know, pulling up his filmography, he stopped acting like regularly really in the 2000s. You know, he did a little bit here and there, but then he did a voice of Dark Helmet on an episode of the Goldbergs, and then he's been on a couple things like as himself. But there is a movie in development called Shrunk, which is in pre-production, which he is listed as a cast member for. So maybe Rick Moranis coming out of retirement.
Maybe. I'd like to see. You know, he's Dark Helmet. He did it. He did it perfectly. There's no one that I can't think anyone else who could have did it better than what he did. Everything he did was tremendous.
Well, and from the, you know, he's a short man, so like he's got this huge helmet to add to his intimidating presence. But then when it comes up, it's just the little round nerdy glasses, and just
you already mentioned this, Tony, but I just love the fact that voice is all him. It's not like it's through the helmet. Yeah. It's because even when he's playing with the toys, he's got his helmet up, but when he's playing his character, he's talking in
he's talking in his Lord Helmet voice.
That's about right. The first scene when you see him, and you see everybody, they're shaking in their boots, like, oh my god, this guy's coming in. Then he just walks out there.
Can't like, breathe in this thing.
It's,
and it's like, I have to say, one thing I really appreciate, sort of growing up with this movie and getting older is like, as a kid, I recognized the ridiculousness of the size of his helmet, but like as I got older, you start looking at all the details of the rest of his costume, and it's like it is the most ridiculous, silly looking thing in the world.
He has a tie.
Yeah,
he has a tie on,
and a really short, silly looking tie.
Yeah, why's he got a tie on for? Yeah, but
you really short looking things too.
You wouldn't notice that tie when you're a kid. You have to be an adult to really pick up and say, "This motherfucker wearing a tie."
That's why he seriously is like the office manager who's middle management, and it's just all gone to his head.
And see, but now I'm totally thinking of him as Michael Scott,
right? But like an evil Michael Scott.
Yeah. Oh god.
I think what else haven't we talked about in this movie?
Phil points out there's a Spaceballs cartoon if people have never seen it, and yes, I know there is because as I was looking at various actors, I noticed that some of them returned to do voices for the Spaceballs cartoon.
Yeah, I think Joan Rivers did. I think she reprised the role.
Well, and Daphne Zuniga did as well.
I think it ran for one season. I don't think it got any more than that.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's good.
It was very, they like throw up on you for a joke and things like that.
Right. It probably targeted at children.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. But it's good that they even were able to make that, and they still weren't able to make no merchandise because of damn George Lucas. So
I like this. I don't know anything about it, but just the idea of a movie called Spaceballs 3: The Quest for Spaceballs 2 is kind of great.
That is great.
Yeah.
Who did he say? It said that in the movie, right? Who said that? I know I heard that before. It wasn't in the movie, was it?
No, because they talk about Spaceballs 2: The Quest for More Money.
Yeah, that would be. I think that was a script that floated around for a little bit. Spaceballs 2, 3 is the Quest for Spaceballs 2, which would be amazing if they did that. I think that's a perfect name for it. Why not do that? Just skip right to the third movie, right? And forget about the second one, and just take it from there. I think that's perfectly up these guys' alley. I just don't know. If you've seen these guys today, I think the woman would hold up, but these other guys, would they still look? Would you want to see them in this role at their age? That's what
I would love to see Bill Pullman come back, and you could do all the spoof of like Logan and Han Solo in The Force Awakens, and like the aging Kirk character from any of the from the later Star Trek films. I think that is an excellent opportunity to make Mel Brooks jokes about the aging man character,
Yeah, and I really do like the idea of just skipping the Spaceballs 3 because I think it's like totally in keeping with the spirit of it. I was just talking with Steven about this before we started, and the fact that I love that there was a limited edition soundtrack that came out for the film, and it was the 19th anniversary soundtrack. It's like it wasn't the 20th anniversary, it was the 19th. So it's just like that's the perfect type of thing to do that kind of oddball thing with the numbers. It would be good if they just jumped right to 3.
Yeah, but I really love the idea of like movie 3, the search for movie 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then they could find it on like Blu-ray.
Yeah.
No, not have to be something else, like like put it on like what is it? Laser disc. Find the laser. They're searching for the laser copy of it, and that
my God, laser disc. John, you got any laser discs?
I do. I have the original Star Wars trilogy on Laserdisc.
There you go. I knew you. I figured you had something on Laserdisc.
Yeah.
You may not realize this, Tony, but John is like the physical media guy. He's got DVDs, CDs, Laserdisc, VHS tape. He's probably got like old vinyl records too.
I got records. I got wax.
Yeah.
I got wax. I got my wax. So I have a couple of 8-tracks, but I don't have an 8-track player. I grew up with, having 8-track in my car. I remember having that when my dad was in the car, having an 8-track player. And my dad was, he was really into music. So I had reel-to-reel system, and I had, turntables and all that growing up right in my house the whole time. And my dad used to have milk crates full of records right in my living room underneath it all. So I remember when the Pink Floyd The Wall, I had that. And they used to have those big, the albums you would open up into 3 different sections. I used to build like forts out of them and like play in the living room with them. My dad would get mad if he caught me doing that and stuff. So, but I remember growing up with all that stuff, 2.5-inch reels is what they put the music on back then and stuff. So it's a good time, good time. Nowadays, that's what I told people, the difference between, even when I was just like in my 20s, like the most important thing that people would buy would be a radio system, like a huge radio with huge speakers. Now you can't even find them in people's houses anymore. No one has a radio system anymore. And before people got TV sets, they had big radios. Like it was much more important. But now you just have a sound bar and you stream everything onto the sound bar and stuff like that. You don't see anything like that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I had the big stereo system too, that had the turntable on top, and then it had like a tray to hold 5 CDs at once, and the dual tape decks. Mine
isn't technically a radio, but I have the big stereo surround sound system. So
yeah, I just put in headphones now.
Not the same like it used to be. It's not the same like it used to be. It used to just be, you had these big ass speakers in your living room. Doom, 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 doom. People just bumping stuff. That's what it was supposed to be. That's what it was all about. And then you take them, you extend them, and you bring them outside in front of your building, and you blow it outside. Or you open your window up, and you play for the people outside. That's the way it was growing up around. But when I was young, I grew up in New York City, in the hip hop era, and when it was first jumping off and everything else. And I remember people having parties outside, and they would hook up the turntables to the light posts outside. You would break into the light post and plug into that in the park, and we just have big block parties all playing hip hop music back then. And that's when there was no words in the hip hop music. It was just all just instrumentals, and everyone would go out there and just break dance. It was really more about break dancing than anything else. And people would put big cardboard. You put cardboard down, or you put like vinyl for your kitchen. People would carry that around on their back. People used to have big cardboard things, and they would carry them around, and they would just drop them on the floor and start battling each other and break dance. They have this vinyl from your kitchen all rolled up, and they carry it around under their arm. And like, what? You want to battle right now? And they roll it right out on the floor and just start break dancing and spinning around and all that. I grew up when it was like that era and stuff like that. So it was
really, John, you the baby here.
Huh?
I'm telling John, he's the baby here, man. We grew up in that same time period. No, I didn't grow up in New York. I grew up in the suburbs outside Dallas, but like I've still seen it, I still lived through that. So, hey, we got maybe half an hour left. If there's anything anybody wants to say about Spaceballs, feel free to bring it up. But Tony,
in the comment section, put it up in there. Squeezy box, Wheezy Squeezy box. I've never seen Wheezy Squeezy. I like
Wheezy Squeezy box. She's a longtime supporter. She old enough to be my mom, maybe old enough to be my grandma, but this is the official timekeeper. She will let you know when it is 4:20 in any time zone in the world. Wheezy will let you know when 4:20 rolls around.
This Wheezy Squeezy is a beautiful name.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful name.
We love you, Wheezy. And she's been missing for a couple weeks because she had like the charger went out or something for her laptop. But it's really great to have you back this week, Wheezy.
And Bernie L said made a comment earlier. Let me address that real quick. I don't owe you nothing, Bernie, because the time limit was up. You owe me. I won that bet. So we gonna talk. We gonna talk about that. We gonna talk about it. We gonna talk about it. Balrog. When my house is empty, a Balrog enters the room.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean, John.
Balrog.
Basically, that's
the Street Fighter.
No, that's Lord of the Rings. When I have an empty house, the neighborhood here basically hears the standoff between Gandalf and the Balrog. So.
Oh, that's not the name of the Street Fighter box that looks like Mike Tyson?
Yeah.
That is his name. So, all right, yeah, that's a Balrog. I know that. And for a little information about that boxer's name was supposed to be M. Bison because he was similar to, he was supposed to take off Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So really named him M. Bison, but then Mike Tyson sued them for doing that. So they switched his name to Balrog and the last character named to M. Bison.
Wow.
So it was supposed to be the other way around, but that's what happened.
Wow. I didn't know that, man. But you say that and it makes total sense because you look at Balrog on Street Fighter, like there's no mistaking it.
Yeah, no, that's why he was M. Bison. That was his name. And Mike Tyson sued him because it was too close to his name. And so they switched the two characters' names around.
Right on. So if anybody in the chat's got something to say about Spaceballs too, something you want to make sure we touch on, go ahead and bring it up. But I really feel like we've kind of covered Mel Brooks is a genius. Rick Moranis is great. Colonel Sanders is an underappreciated character. It's the start of Bill Pullman. We all enjoyed Daphne Zuniga. You know what? I'm just going to bring it back to John Candy for a minute then, because we kind of started early talking about him, but like his contribution to this film cannot be underestimated.
No, he was the star of the film. Like when you look at the star, when you look at names, he was the name. He was the name. You put the name on the billboard. John Candy's name was the one that rang out over anybody else's there at that time. John Candy was definitely the star that put butts in the seats. John Candy was the one to do that, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, this was at a time also when a named actor could drive the sales of movie tickets all by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a thing that happens nearly as much anymore. Or if it does, there's far fewer that can pull it off. Like if The Rock is in a movie, a lot of people are going to show up to watch it. But
there's a couple of bankable guys I would say right now. I would say only two. If I had to pick, I pick Leonardo DiCaprio and Denzel Washington are probably the only two stars that you can guarantee that if they are in the movie, especially if they're starring in it alone, people will still show up to see it. The Rock is good in ensemble cast, but there have been movies that The Rock has done by himself that people have not gone out to see. I would say Rampage, Hercules, movies like this. When he was just starring itself, he wasn't able to pull it off. But when you put him in movies like with Jumanji and stuff like that, he excels in movies like that. But just for a one star, one name guy, just if you go out there, he's getting a good. I would say only two bankable guys in Hollywood today are Leonardo DiCaprio and Denzel Washington. Out of everyone out there, that's the only two names that put butts in the seats, and people will go to see this if they're starring in it.
Just no matter what they make,
no matter what it is.
Yeah,
you hear Leo's in the movie, I'm with it to see it.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Wolf of Wall Street, whatever it is. Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. Let's take a look at this. Let's might as well do it. Same thing with Denzel Washington. If you hear he's in it, I think you go to those two guys. Anyone else, I don't really think holds that weight anymore.
Right on. But yeah, John Candy was definitely kind of that guy back in the late 80s and early 90s. If his name was on the poster, people were going to go see it. And I'm sure I haven't seen everything John Candy's ever been in, but I've seen a lot of it. And I don't even know that this is one of my favorite roles of his. He's great in it, but the man was so talented. Like, I think there's probably half a dozen roles I like better than Barf. And Barf's great.
See, again, though, it's sort of a testament to how I grew up with the movie. And you say John Candy, and I think Spaceballs. So
Yeah. John Candy had a cartoon. You know what I mean? He was Camp Candy. What's his cartoon? For John Candy and stuff. I mean, he was a bona fide superstar. So at that time, and that was, listen, that he came, in the, how can I say this, in the heavy set white comedian era, right? You had Belushi first. He came and put that out there. Then you had John Candy, and a long line of other people with Artie Lang. All came. I'm thinking now. How can I think of the dude's name? That's crazy. Chris Farley.
Yeah, Will Sasso was that guy.
All those guys came in that era, after that, John Belushi started, Candy, and then everyone else just like got typecasted and went right along with that, you know what I mean, and everything else. So he was like the straight guy at all those comedians. Everyone else you mentioned's got problems, right? When you look at all this, Belushi, he's the only one that didn't have any problems. He's the only one who was able to maintain a pure reputation, you know what I mean, to the point where they were able to make a kid's cartoon about him. And you couldn't do that with Artie Lang sniffing glass up his nose. You know what I mean? You couldn't do anything like that. You know what I mean? Or I forgot his name again. I just said it. Chippendales Dancers guy.
Mom asked a good question though. She's asking about bankable. Do you think there's any bankable actresses around right now?
Right now, no. I don't think there's one woman out there, unfortunately, that if that person starred in a movie by themselves, that people would automatically go to see it, because I mean there's beautiful, great women actresses. Meryl Streep is probably the greatest woman actress alive right now to this day. But as for this box office, that if you see her name on the bill and she's starring in this movie by herself, she's the headliner, that you're just gonna go see this movie because she's in it, I don't think there's one female actress that pulls that off right now. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Meryl Streep, just because she's so well known and so well loved. I'm thinking maybe her, and then you do have some highly bankable actresses, but I'm with you. Like, there's nobody I can think of that I think will just automatically bring people large numbers.
Jodie Foster was that for a long time.
She was.
Right now you haven't seen her in such a long time. You don't know if she could still do it, but she did that many a time. Jodie Foster was the lead of a movie, whether it was Contact or Hannibal or anything you want to put out there. Jodie Foster was back since she was a child. She's a star, So she had that. She was there for a long time, And female actresses have come up. Nicole Kidman, but is there ever a Nicole Kidman movie where she was a star by herself that you went to go see? I don't think so. I don't think there's one. And she was, she's always had somebody on there with her. So when you look at just them being the lead in that role and them holding down that movie and you're going to see it because that person's in it, it's really hard for me. Phil says Meg Ryan was that for a while. I think Meg Ryan had her shot for a little while, but I think she ruined her career by having the affair with Russell Crowe. I think that's what really hurt her when she divorced her husband and had an affair with Russell Crowe, and then the plastic surgery, of course, with the lips and everything else, really blew her up after that. But I think she ruined herself. Angelina Jolie, Bernie brings up, yes, Angelina was that for a little while.
She was that for a while.
She was that for a little while, but she's not that anymore. But she definitely was that. I mean, when you look at the Tomb Raider movie, that was it's not a lot of women who get movies where they can just be the star, unfortunately, right now. And
I will tell you this though, there is one actress that no matter what movie comes out that she's in, I guarantee you, I know a few people who gonna be buying tickets. John's already shaking his head because he knows what
you really can't resist, can you, Steve?
Nope, really can't.
Who, Sharon Stone? Sharon Stone was that for
the one and only, the legendary Keira Knightley.
Who?
Keira Knightley.
He's teasing me, Tony.
Yeah, I'm taking the piss out of John on this one.
I'm like, who is that?
She's actually a great actress, but she's like, that's John's like celebrity hall pass.
All right, there you go.
So
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like, That would have been like to me, like when I my 80s. Who was your 80s movie star crush? Like who
Oh man, 80s?
in the 80s?
Probably
This is the 80s
Brooke
movie.
Shields, man.
Who?
Brooke Shields.
Brooke Shields. Those damn Jordache jeans did it, huh?
Yeah.
I like when I go look back and from movies and everything else from the 80s. You know, I really like Phoebe Cates. I know she wasn't in a lot of stuff. I know she wasn't, but the one Fast Time at Ridgemont High scene got me.
Yeah, that got a lot of us young men. Let's be real. That got a lot of us.
That got me. That I felt like Brad in that toilet sitting there. I probably was Brad in that toilet sitting there many times after that. Right there. Kelly LeBrock? Yes, Kelly LeBrock was beautiful. Well, Weird Science.
She was in what was that movie? Weird Science?
Weird Science. She was just perfect. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her. You can't say a bad thing about her. Only thing you can say bad about her is that she got with Steven Seagal after.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Apparently that guy's a creep too.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so like I am going to give everybody one last chance to turn this back to Spaceballs before I just throw up my hands and say screw it, do whatever you want. So like this your last shot, Tony. What else you got about Spaceballs? John, what else you got?
We covered a lot.
We did. Like I say,
then we covered the whole movie. I think we went through the whole movie of Spaceballs. I'm trying to think of anything obscure.
Yeah, I do want to say that, and I kind of mentioned this earlier. What's great for me about this movie is because it's not just a parody to me. It has an identity onto itself. It's a story that I love, and you know, I think the film has a lot of heart, and I grew up watching it with my dad to the point where he and I knew all the lines, and you know, we laughed at all the same moments, and so the movie means a lot to me at that level. And so I get emotional when, you know, we get to the end of the movie, and you know, and Lone Star and, you know, and the princess, you know, get together, and you know, the happy ending and all that, and the music hits. So yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. So I'll just close by saying that
you love it because like nostalgia does not hurt your feelings about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you.
No, when I say that, you know, Spaceballs, when you look at the, you know, the climate change and everything else and all this weather, and you know, as you said, it's probably more relevant now, you know, just to say that back then that the planet just ruined all of its oxygen and is trying to steal it from another planet, you know, and look at where we are right now with the atmosphere and everything else, that it was so ahead of its time back then just for those reasons alone. It's just one of those movies, as I said, that I think that I appreciate now as older than I did when I was younger, when I first watched it, because I know what the jokes are. I can get the jokes and everything else, and all the little puns and all the little references. It to me, it got better. It's like wine. It got better with age, and even though the special effects, do they hold up to modern expect? No, of course not. But it's still good enough for you to watch it and appreciate it for when it came out and everything else. So I just loved it. I love the characters in it, and it's not, you know, it's one of these movies that, you know, it's not that long. You can get in there, you can watch it and get out. You know, it snaps through. It's a fast playing movie. It's no dragging to it, and the jokes are hilarious. It doesn't matter. The one liners, it has maybe more quotable lines than a lot of other movies. It's an iconic movie and deserves to be remembered as such.
Right on. And you know, I go back to the 80s, and we probably wore this one out on VHS, you know, me and my brothers quoted it to each other immensely. Like this and The Princess Bride, you know, were probably the ones that we could always quote because we'd seen them over and over and over again. So yeah, I guess it's got some nostalgia for me too. When we do these retro reviews, I do try to like look through the modern lens with a critical eye, and you know, I was like, it's not as good as I remember it, but I guess I still thought it was It was okay. I still had a lot of fun with it. Let's just say that. And I think you're right, John. I think it's while it's borrowing a lot of stuff from a lot of different places, the way it puts them together and smooths out all the wrinkles between them, it really does kind of become its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if there's one big takeaway from this film, it's that if we want to solve our climate change, we really need to get busy building a Spaceball 1 for ourselves.
Exactly. Or you have to get yourself a transformer vacuum cleaner one.
Right. Something that can transform into Mega Maid anyway.
So we can or get a space or get some type of space shield that goes around the whole planet that can just keep everything in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait, is the lesson of this that we need to build something to steal somebody else's air?
Yes, that's correct.
Because
it might be. Might be. You might get to the point where Perrier is a real thing.
We might. I mean, I hope not, but. And the thing is, like, I wonder, because I haven't seen like a bottle of Perrier water in forever. But so I wonder, like, would that joke still land with people today as much? Because that was like the only brand of sparkling water there was that I knew of back in the day. And so everybody knew of it.
See, and for me, like, as a kid, I never drew the connection there. It was just a can of air, which was the joke for me. So I think a lot of the stuff in the movie sort of lands based on how the actors play it off. And in a lot of cases, you don't even need to necessarily get the references themselves because they're just having so much fun when they play these moments. So I think it would still work.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's not a brand that's maybe as like known throughout all of American, all of culture the way it used to be. Because it used to be everybody knew what Perrier was. Because it was the only.
It was rich. It was the rich people stuff. Perrier.
Yes.
It was Perrier. It was like that's what it was, like rich people water. I remember hearing people say all the time, "No one's ever gonna pay for water.
Yeah,
that's for free. Who's gonna pay for water?" Oh, a lot of people. I pay for water.
Yeah, right. I've paid for water plenty of times.
A lot of people pay for that. So I think that's just what it is. Oh, LMR, she likes Perrier water. Yeah. Pink grapefruit Perrier.
Looks like Bernie's agreeing with her too. Perrier and Grey Poupon. See, yeah, Phil living high on the hog here.
Yeah, Perrier and Grey Poupon. Those are two of the rich things. Grey Poupon was so rich that they did commercials with rich people. Could you mind borrow some Grey Poupon?
Right.
That's just the way that stuff was known.
Oh, that commercial is so like it's such in bad taste.
You people just eating mustard. We eat Grey Poupon. We got Grey Poupon here. It's just the poo. When you put the poo in front of something, it sounds fancy. All
right. So we're about 10 minutes from the end, and I think we've said all we can say about the movie. But Tony, while we got you here, you mind if I just throw a couple of random questions at you?
Nope. You can say whatever you want. I answer anything. I'm good on it.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I got my man John over here, and John, his whole channel is about movies.
Yep.
So what are some of your favorite movies?
Well, you go by favorite movies genre or just favorite movies in general? Are you my favorite movies, or do I think are great movies? What do you mean by it? I
mean, what are the things that you would be passionate about when it comes to movies? Like what are those movies? Not just Citizen Kane's a great film, but you're not going to sit there and talk and be like, oh, I love Citizen Kane for this and that and all this,
Yeah, so, there's a lot of movies I like that I don't think are actually great movies, but I enjoy watching them over and over again because I think they're entertaining. So it's two different things. Like I think of a great movie, like I think quite possibly the greatest movie of all time ever made. It's probably the Shawshank Redemption. When I look at Shawshank Redemption, it's hard for me to see anything, someone saying there's something in that category of drama being better than it. I could see things being tied on it. When I look at mafia movies, a lot of people say The Godfather, but I think that Goodfellas is probably the greatest mafia movie ever made. I don't think there's a better mafia movie than you could see Goodfellas. You know, I enjoy, you know, movies I enjoy watching, like New Jack City and House Party with Kid and Play. I grew up in that era, so I love just seeing those and seeing the old fashions and seeing everything else. Favorite movie of all time is Dirty Dancing. So I love Dirty Dancing. I could watch that over and over and over again.
I would not have guessed that, Tony, but that's a great movie.
It is. That's my favorite movie of all time. It brings up a really happy feelings to me when I watch it. It's a movie that if it's playing at any time, I could pick it up and watch it from wherever it's at. You know, another movie like that I love, that, you know, that probably doesn't stand the test of time when you look at the graphics, but kind of does, is I love Tron. I love Tron growing up. Tron was one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Tron. I wanted to be in Tron. You know, so I love that movie. A bunch of movies I feel that way about, you know, that are just movies that I could watch over and over and over again. I love Set It Off. I love Beauty Shop with Queen Latifah. I could watch Beauty Shop over. I love that movie. That movie is so funny to me. I just love everything about the movie. I could put that movie on right now and watch that movie. I just think that's a funny movie. It's a great movie. People talking about Westerns. If I'm dealing with Westerns and stuff, I like Open Range. I thought that was good. I don't think it's the best Western, but I liked Open Range. I like the cinematic style of it. Obviously, Tombstone's a good one. I could like a lot of them. A sports movie, it's hard for me to say what sports movie I like, because I you know, from back in the day, I like Rollerball. I loved Rollerball. The original Rollerball. I loved that movie. I loved Rollerball. When I was young, I loved Rollerball. I wanted to be in Rollerball. I loved that movie. But if I had to pick one movie, I would say Love and Basketball. I would say is my favorite movie. I would say Love and Basketball is a great movie. You can watch it with your woman, and she'll make love to you after she watches Love and Basketball. So that's always a plus. But, you know, there's a whole lot of movies out there that I love. I'm a movie buff. I used to collect DVDs. I used to have more DVDs than the video store. But I gave most of them all away when I knew that they were going to be out and I wasn't going to need them anymore. But I had so many DVDs. That was my thing, to go buy DVDs.
Yeah.
Right on. That's great stuff.
Now, there is one of my DVD shelves. The other is over here.
Yeah, John's known. I told you before, he's known for his love of physical media. He's got a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But we're down to the last few minutes. Tony, 3 minutes or less. Why are the Children of the Forest just the worst?
They're the worst because if you really look at what they stand for, you take a couple of things into account dealing with the Children of the Forest. Number one, you take into account to what they do for what they do, what their powers are. The number one power is, it's called skin changing, it's called warging, it's called this, but what it really is body snatching, right? So if you snatch somebody's body and make them a slave to you, you're a very bad person. The reason why they do this is because they have a few numbers. So with few numbers, they can't fight battles that they're supposed to fight. So they put other people out there. There's no difference between what they are doing than what the White Walkers do to the dead people, right? So if you look at it in that perspective, this is the Night King raising whites. What's the difference between them jumping inside and taking advantage of somebody? You even see when Bran does it to Hodor, that they say in the book that Hodor is cowering. Bran sees him cowering inside of his brain, scared to death. And Bran's like, oh, don't worry about it, Hodor. It's just me. I'm just going to control you for a little while. Don't worry about it. Just take a back seat and let me do whatever I want with your body. So when you look at that right there, you can just tell that they're evil. I believe that they played the long game from a long con from the beginning, that their whole plan was to sit the throne of Westeros when this is all said and done. And I believe that it is the Children of the Forest, last green seer, that is sitting on the throne when it's all said and done. That's not Bran. That's not Blood Raven. That's the last green seer. There's a reason why his name is the last green seer. Last means last. If you come in last place, that means there's no one behind you, right? So this is just a person who's been jumping from body to body to body. and instill the last green seer. It's not Bloodraven. It's not Bran. They both were captured and killed, and the last green seer just body snatched them.
That was fantastic, man. And I think you got it in about 2.5 minutes, too. So I think your timing was just about perfect. So,
wow, that's brought me down.
Oh, man, come on. I wasn't going to have Tony on and not give him the chance to.
I know. Wow. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, it's a downer.
But, Tony, we got to have you back sometime again real soon, my man.
Anytime
you great time.
Anytime you want. I had a great time. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for all the people in the chat showed up here, especially people who don't know who I am and everything else. I think I'm signing off now. So if I am, let me just say, you can find me on Teflon TV. I am the Don, Tony Teflon. Check me out. Subscribe. I have a new video dropping tomorrow. I think it drops at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I have a podcast with LMR right there, who was in the chat today. Or it's called the Lady in the Don Podcast. Subscribe to the Lady in the Don Podcast and everything else. And hopefully I see y'all over there and everything else. That I would love to see you over there and stuff. And thank you guys again for having me. I totally appreciate it. I love talking about other things other than Game of Thrones, so this gives me a chance just to do so.
Right on, right on. And you got something coming up with Joe Magician, you got something coming up with Indeed Geek. So you know, Tony, he's around. You'll find him if you go look for Tony Teflon.
Teflon TV on YouTube. It's Google. You could Google Tony Teflon, or you could Google Teflon TV. Both will lead you to me.
Yep.
So I am the Tony Teflon on Google. Like if you Google it, I'm what pops up. I'm the first thing that pops up is me. That I own that spot.
Right. That's cool. John, you got Brazil on Thursday night with San Rixian, 8 Eastern, correct?
Yep.
All right, cool. That's a movie I haven't seen, but I'm going to watch it between now and then so that I can be in the chat and know what the hell y'all are talking about.
Don't watch Human Centipede. That's my advice.
Okay, yeah, I promise I will not watch Human Centipede.
You never seen that movie, Human Centipede?
No. You
never seen that movie?
No.
Y'all never heard of that movie?
Oh, yes.
I've heard of it. I don't have any intention to see it.
Yeah,
desire to see that.
That's Two Girls, One Cup. That you don't want to see that.
Yeah. I don't know. Thank you. Anyway. Yeah, Leaf says Tony's everywhere this week. Seems like it. But and then come back next week for John and Nessie's surprise stream doing I don't know what. I'm taking a week off to go hang out with the kids because I haven't seen them much. But I'll be back, but John and Nessie going to hold it down next week.
We'll see if we let you back, Stephen.
All right, I appreciate it. I fingers crossed. I hope you do.
And I hope your co-host feels better. I heard you say about the COVID. I would like to say that, obviously as someone that we know that y'all know, I don't know a person that has gotten this. This is not a joking matter, people. This is not a political thing. Wear a mask, be safe, and respect it. And that's it. Don't go out there with disrespect. Disrespect it because it could happen to her. It could happen to anyone. And even if you feel good, you could give it to someone who may not react exactly the same way you did, right? So it's not hard just to put a mask on for a couple of seconds when you're inside of a store or whatever, and just respect it and respect your life and respect other people's lives too.
There you go. And yeah, I agree. Wear your mask, stay socially distant, stay home if you can. Be careful if you have to go out. Please subscribe. Links to all the stuff down in the description for myself, for John, for Tony. And yeah, that's about it, y'all. Unless John or Tony, unless either one of y'all have something else to say, I'll take that as a no. So you know what it is, everyone. Peace and be excellent to each other.